What's up guys, my name's Liam and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the brand new IQUNIX EZ80. I've been very vocal about the EZ63 being one of my favorite keyboards ever since I first got my hands on it, and I do prefer larger form factor keyboards, so the second that I heard about this I was really excited to get my hands on it. So in this video I'm going to be breaking down how my experience has gone with it so far, how it stacks up compared to some of the competition out there, and hopefully I'll be able to help you decide whether or not this could possibly be the perfect keyboard for you. So let's check it out. And before we get started today, I did want to let you know this was sent out to me. However, everything you'll be hearing in this video is going to be my own words and my own opinions. Included in the box, it does come with this carrying case. As you can see, I do have it upside down right now. The reason being is because that's how you open it. And once you do open it up, the keyboard is obviously stored down here in this bottom portion. Then up here, they do have a pouch where you can store a bunch of additional things. This does come with a brush, keycap puller, and switch puller. Also does come with some additional switches in here, USB-C to USB Type-A cable, and then also does come with some documentation. So here we got the keyboard itself, and I'm really happy to see that this time they did offer it in this stealth black colorway, which is what I prefer. It does just kind of match with whatever type of setup I decide to go with on my desktop. Also really love, I would say that my favorite overall layout is going to be just a true TKL. They do have this LED bar down here in the right side. They also do have one up here on the top left hand side. The one thing I will say about this with the layout is just the way that it's angled. It does make the front feel like it's a little high up, so something I did kind of have to adjust to. They do have the USB-C connectivity still up here in the top middle. I kind of would prefer it over on the left-hand side, but not too much of a deal breaker. Another thing that I did want to bring up that I did mention in my EZ63 video is these feet, or this feet design down here on the side. As you can see, they're not flush with the top of the case. They do kind of stick up. This is a little bit of an annoyance for me. If you were to angle the keyboard, I just feel like the fact that these feet kind of stick out from the rest of the case itself seem to almost kind of get in the way sometimes. And then over here on the back, they just have these rubberized feet in each one of the four corners. But looking at the rest of the case all the way around, here's a look at the front. This edge right here is nice and rounded, so it doesn't feel sharp or anything like that to where it would bother you. Here's a look of the close-up on the sides, what they look like. You can't adjust the angle of these feet or anything like that. And to open up this case, it is actually really simple. All it takes is 8 screws. You got the 2 up here at the top on this side and 2 on the bottom, and then the other side looks exactly like this. So you just need to take them out of each side, pull off these sides, the top and the bottom, and that's how you get to the internals. But all of the pieces of this case are aluminum, so everything about this does feel solid and of high quality, has been staying nice and planted on my desk the entire time that I've been using it. Dropping on my scale, we got it coming in at 1,690 grams. Here's a look of the keycaps that do come included. They are transparent, and I will tell you that transparent keycaps haven't generally been my favorite in the past. However, out of all the keyboards that I've tested, the lighting on this has been by far my favorite when it does come to transparent keycaps. They do have the dark lettering here on the front. This is their X switch. And after testing out a bunch of different switches recently, especially some of these ones that have transparent shells that have some type of a different color, whether it's green or red or anything like that, I found that I really do prefer switches that do have a white casing on them. It does just kind of help to disperse the light a little bit more evenly, and regardless of what type of color you decide to go with on the RGB for your keyboard, it makes it look just a little bit more clean. And though it does have this clear looking plastic here on the front of the switch to allow the light to bleed through a little bit more easily, this also is frosted as well to kind of help disperse and soften up that light a little bit more. But here's a look at the internal design on the switches here themselves. It does have this single rail design, and a lot of these magnetic switches that have been coming out recently, I've been testing a bunch of different ones out. They've honestly kind of just figured out the formula in my opinion, and they're all really don't seem to be that far apart from one another in the overall feeling and design of them. This does have an initial force of 36 GF, and these switches, they do feel pretty stable. There is just a little bit of wobble there when sitting in the upward position. Once you do press it down, they are pretty stable, not a whole lot of movement or stem wobble. As you can see, they're just a very minor amount. So these switches, they do feel pretty lightweight. They have a smooth actuation, and they've been gaming for me really great. Here's a quick close-up shot of what the PCB does look like underneath the switches themselves. It does have a bottom facing LED. The stabilizers also do come pre-lubed, and you do see just a little bit amount of lube down there in the bottom. But aside from that, once you actually do open this up, it is gasket mounted. As you can see, these silicone pads right here. This is the top piece right here that it mounts in, and they just kind of sit right in here. And then over here this is what the bottom piece looks like once you take this apart. So these bottom pads sit down here in this bottom piece. Once you do take the sides apart, which here's what these sides look like right here when they're taken off, and then take the top and the bottom piece off, this is what you're left over with. And you can just simply lift up right here. There is a ribbon cable on the bottom. So here's a close-up look of the silicone pads that they use for the gasket mounting. And there is some foam here in between the aluminum switch plate. And then down here on the bottom, here's a close-up shot of what the PCB looks like. And then once we move this PCB out of the way up here, I'm not going to detach the ribbon cable. It does appear that they have a piece of Poron foam down here on the bottom, or at least I do believe that is Poron, and then that sits on top of this aluminum chassis. All right, so now let's go ahead and we will drop a really quick sound check. To access the settings for this keyboard, you can do so through their web-based driver. Starting over here on the key map tab, this is where you can make adjustments to your keyboard and even on the function layer. Next up, for the lighting tab, here is the different types of presets that you do have, and you do have a global brightness setting over here. You can make individual adjustments to individual keys, WASD, or do a select all over here if you wish to change all of them. Next up on the performance tab, once you're getting this keyboard set up, you'll need to come in here and select the keys that you want to adjust. You can do so over here, do the select all, or we will do the WASD for this example. Once you do have your keys selected, you will need to come in here and select the correct switch that you do currently have installed in this keyboard. You do have these different options over here for how low or what the sensitivity is that you make adjustments in. The highest sensitivity, as you can see, is the infinite mode. That is currently what I do have selected. That does allow you to make adjustments as low as 0.005 millimeters. Once you have that selected, you can come over here and either disable or enable the rapid trigger function if you do wish to do so. So as you can see here with the press and the release, you do have these separate settings. There's even a bottom safety zone that you can set up. The one thing that's been very impressive about this keyboard for me is the stability of it. This has been running very stable, even at the highest sensitivities. I haven't noticed any accidental activations. The only thing that I have noticed is if I do have the release at the 0.005 millimeter and I don't have the bottom safety zone turned on, then I can get times where I'm just running around, I will just accidentally stop running. So it is good to get this adjusted up. You can even lift up the release if you wanted to do so just a little bit. How this works with the infinite mode is the lowest setting is 0.005, but once you do make a single adjustment, it does go up to 0.02. That's your next option. And then after that, you can make adjustments as low as 0.01 millimeters. And then once you have this all configured correctly, how you like it, you just come here and hit the save button and everything will be saved and calibrated in real time. On the next tab, you do have this Pro Keys functionality right here, and you can do things like set up the Rappy Snappy, Mod Tap, SOCD. I'll show you really quickly how simple this is to do. You just come over here, hit the create button, select the SOCD, I'll hit next. You want to select the two keys you want to use for SOCD, which is the A and D key, and then I always use the last input priority for this functionality, and it has been working out very well for me. They also do have a bunch of different pros on here where you can come in and use their saved profiles to configure the keyboard to your liking. And then the final tab over here, something that I always recommend you do once you do get your keyboard out of the box, or every time you do update the firmware on, is you'll want to come in here, and this is where you can configure the key calibration for your keyboard to ensure that it's running as accurately as possible. To test out the latency, I did put this on my solenoid rig with my high-speed camera. Just a really quick disclaimer I like to put out there for all of these testing is that there are a bunch of different varying factors that can alter the results of this test, so please do make sure you keep that in mind. I did test this against the Wooting 60HE 10 times on the press and the release, same as this one, and the performance of this keyboard coming out very impressive. It was coming out slightly ahead of the Wooting on both the press and the release a majority of the time. All right, guys, so that about wraps things up on the brand new EZ80. Like I'd mentioned earlier, very few things to critique about this board. The fact that just the way it's angled with the front felt like it's a little high to me, and the way that the feet, these aluminum feet, kind of stick out in the front, can be a bothersome when you do kind of angle the keyboard when you're gaming. However, with all that being said, I don't really have any other things that I can critique about this keyboard. As I've already mentioned to you, TKL being my favorite form factor, and honestly, the stability of this keyboard, I don't get like any major noticeable accidental presses. The only small issue that I have, I've been testing this out, is if I were to hold on down on the key, I would just randomly get times where I'd stop running. Though a very easy fix, something you can just adjust in the software. That was just testing it out at the absolute highest sensitivity. But everything else about this, I really feel like they nailed it down. I love the look, the aesthetic, the colorway. I even really like how they went with these transparent keycaps. The way that the RGB just looks on this keyboard, I just feel like they just knocked it out of the park and killed it. So the fact that this is one of my favorite form factors and it performs great, feels fantastic, this is gonna sit at the absolute top of my list as my top 3 favorite keyboards, right next to the Wooting 88G and the brand new HM80, the aluminum version of that keyboard as well. So if you're interested in picking up a high quality TKL Hall Effect gaming keyboard, then I can absolutely recommend checking this out, as this is one of my favorites out there. So if you guys have any additional questions or feel like I left anything out, please let me know in the comments down below. If you have enjoyed watching this video and are interested in seeing more videos like this in the future, please drop this video a like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you guys so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.